There's a kind of crisis that shows up around 50 that nobody warns you about. It has nothing to do with money or health. It is an identity crisis. It's the strange, disoriented moment when you realize you don't fully know who you are anymore outside of the thing you have done for the last 20 or 30 years. And it's confusing because from the outside your life looks stable. So you feel like you have no right to feel this lost. In this video, I am going to explain exactly why this happens. Why leaving or even thinking about leaving your career can feel like erasing yourself, and how to rebuild an identity that's actually yours instead of one you inherited. By the end, you'll understand that this crisis isn't a sign something's wrong with you, it's a sign you're finally ready to become the next version of you. If you appreciate this type of content, gently tap that like button. Let's get to work. Let me start with why this even happens. Because once you understand the mechanism, the whole thing stops feeling like a personal failure and starts feeling like a predictable stage. Here's what goes on. When you do one thing for a very long time, something sneaky happens in your mind. At first, it's just what you do, it's a job. But do it for decades, get good at it, get known for it, build your whole daily rhythm around it. And slowly, without you noticing, the line between what you do, and who you are gets erased. The job stops being an activity and becomes an identity. And that's why, when you imagine leaving it, it doesn't feel like changing jobs. It, f- it feels like a small death because, in a way, it is. A version of you would end. That's the part people miss. They think, why am I so scared? I have savings, I have skills, I could figure it out. And that can't understand why they still feel frozen. It's because the fear was never really about the logistics. The fear is about the self. Your brain treats the identity you have built like a living thing, and it will fight to protect it exactly it would fight to protect your body. So when you feel that panic at the thought of waking up, you are not being weak or dramatic. Your survival system genuinely can't tell the difference between losing your role and losing yourself. That's how deep it goes. Now, here's the thing almost nobody gives you permission to do, and I want to give it to you right now. You are allowed to grieve. When you leave something you've been for decades, and even when you decide to, there's a real loss in it, and our culture has no room for the grief because from the outset it looks like a win. People say congratulations. People say you are so brave. And the meanwhile, you feel this heavy, quiet sadness that you can't explain to anyone. And because nobody is naming it, you assume something wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You are grieving a version of yourself, and a grief for the self is just as real as a grief for a person. The you that you are leaving behind was real. That person got up early for years, sacrificed, showed up, built something. Of course, that's grief. Let yourself feel it. Trying to skip the grief is exactly what keeps people stuck because you can't fully walk towards a new identity while you're pretending the old one didn't matter. So let me name the trap at the center of all this, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. I call it the name trap, tag trap. For most of your adult life, when someone asks, "Who are you?" you answer with what you do. It's the first thing out of your mouth at every party, every introduction, the whole life. I'm a whatever. And that answer felt like the truth for so long that you forget it. It was only ever a, ever a name tag, not the person underneath. The name tag is the trap because the moment you consider taking it off, there's this terrifying blank space and your mind screams, "But then who am I?" And that blank space is the scariest part of the whole thing. It feels like there's nothing under the name tag, but there's a lie. But that's a lie your fear is telling you. There is something under there. There's the entire person who existed before the name tag and will exist after it. You have just spent so long looking at the tag that you forgot you look at the person wearing it. Quick break. If this is hitting home, check the description and the pinned comment below for helpful resources on this topic. It will help you put some of this into practice. Okay, let's keep going. So, let me give you the reframe that gets you out of the name tag trap, because this is the single most freeing idea in this whole video. Here it is. You are the content. The career was the variable. Think about it. You have already changed identity many times in your life and survived every single one. You were a kid that you weren't. You were a student, then you weren't. Maybe you were single, then a partner, then a parent. Each time entire identity ended, and each time you didn't disappear. You carried a cross. Something in you stayed the same through every one of those deaths and rebirths. And that something is the real you. The role were just costumes you wore for a reason. The courage is one more costume. The long one, a heavy one. One you wore for decades, but the costume all the time. And the person who's going to take it off is the same person who've been there under that every other costume you have ever worn. You are not losing yourself, you are meeting yourself again without the outfit. Once you really get that, the fear starts to lose its grip, because the terror of the blank space came from believing the name tag were, was all there was. When you realize you are the thing that was there before every name tag and will overlast this one too. The blank space stops being a void and starts being an open field. Same emptiness, completely different feeling. One is a cliff, the other is a beginning. Alright, so how do you actually rebuild? Because I don't want to leave you with just a nice idea. Feeling better is good, but you need to do something about it. So let me give you the way through and the opposite of how you build the first identity. The first one you build by accident, one commitment at a time, until you looked up and it has swallowed you. This one you are going to build on purpose. The first move is to separate your skills from your title. Your title is gone or going, but your skills are not. Underneath whatever you have done for 20 years, there's a stack of real, transferable abilities that don't care what name tag you have attached to. The ability to solve problems under pressure, to communicate, to lead, to stay steady when things go sideways, to learn something hard and get good at it. Those are yours. They came with you. They don't retire with the title does. So sit down and actually list them separate from the job, because you have probably never once looked at your abilities without the job trapped around them. When you see them on your own, you realize you're carrying a furniture of capability into the next thing, not starting from zero. The second move is to reconnect with the parts of you the career crowded out. Here's the painful truth about spending decades before one thing. It cost you all the other things you could have been. There were interests, curiosities, whole sides of you that got quietly starved because there was no time, no room. They didn't lie, they just went doormat. And a huge part of rebuilding is going back and walking those paths up. What do you love before the career took over? What are the curious about you curious about that has nothing to do with making money? What would you do with a free afternoon if no one was watching? Those questions aren't trivial. Those are the raw materials of the next you. The career didn't just take your time, it took the space where the rest of you was supposed to grow. Now you get the space back. The, the third move is to build the new identity through small actions, not big declarations. That is, this is where people trip. They think they have to figure out exactly who they are going to become and announce it before they are allowed to restart. That's backwards. You don't think your way into a new identity, you act your way into it. You do one small thing that the new version of you would do, then another, then another. An identity forms underneath the actions like a path forming under your feet as you walk it. You don't need to know the whole destination. You just need to take the next honest step in the direction that pulls you, and let who you are becoming reveal itself as you go. Nobody rebuilds an identity in a single decision. They rebuilt it in 1,000 small ones. Now I want to say something to the part of you that's worried it's too late for all of this, because I know that voice is loud around this age. It's not too late, and the belief that it is comes from measuring your life against a clock that isn't real. The idea that you're supposed to be finished becoming yourself by a certain age is a made up rule, and it's a cruel one. The truth is, you now have something you didn't have at 25, but you built the first identity by accident. You have decades of self knowledge. You know that what drains you and what lights you up. You know what you value now versus what you were told to value then. You are actually in the best possible position to build an identity that fits, because for the first time you know you are building it for. The 25-year-old was guessing. You are not. So let me bring it home. The identity crisis at 50 is not a breakdown, it's a molt. It's the old shell cracking because you outgrow it. And yes, that's disorienting, and yes, there's a grief in it. And nobody wants you it. It was coming. But on the other side of it is something most people never get, which is a chance to be who you are actually are instead of who, are, who you agreed to be at 25. You, you are the constant. Everything else was a costume. And if you get to choose the next one on purpose, and if you are wondering what people actually do next, what real second act looks like for the people your age. I made a video breaking down the specific directions people over 45 are quietly moving into. The real ones, not the fantasy ones. You can check it out by clicking right there.